Brian, your thoughts on the last 24, 48 hours, and particularly with your colleague, Ron Gibson?
His family remains my thoughts and prayers. This is a very scary time. I can't fathom the mix of emotions they must be going through. He's got a very good young son that, must have been terrified. And I pray for their safety and their peace at night, because I couldn't imagine. I've been through my own home's been broken into before when I've not been there, but I couldn't imagine being home and bullets ringing off.
What are your thoughts on the whole data center? It seems like somebody had an issue with the data center. Ron Gibson supported it. I guess your thoughts on just the whole. Obviously, people are opposed to data centers, but did you ever think it would go this far?
No, not in my wildest dreams. But I tend to think too that while there are a lot of loud voices that are saying they are very much so against data centers, I think of the folks that are, still in support of the data centers that he probably heard from as well. So I think one of the comments I saw too often was that, you didn't do what your constituents wanted. Well, that may have been the loud minority of people. He may have had a swath of people reaching out saying, yes, I support this. They just weren't as boisterous and loud. And, there's always going to be discourse in public settings. And to go to shooting up someone's house because of this is unacceptable. And it's disgusting. And I hope whoever did this gets caught and it's actually prosecuted and hopefully in Marion County.
Do you have a message for anyone who's watching this tonight? Anything you'd want to say, particularly to the residents of Martindale-Brightwood?
Absolutely stay involved. If you want to get back at any one of your elected officials, the best way to do that's at a ballot box. You can always remove them from that position. They get renewed every 4 years. So instead of looking to violence to solve something, which it solves nothing, look to the ballot box to solve your problems, and then look for who else is running in that district and try to make your voice heard that way. There's much better ways than ever turning to violence.
What does the support look like all day for Councilor Gibson? Obviously, anything but a normal day, but it sounds like everyone's kind of been there for him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been there for him. At times like this, you set whatever aside and you realize that there's much bigger things in life, and that, what we do here is important, but him having a safe place to take his family is much more important.
Any concerns about additional threats or a need for increased security as this issue continues? The data center. I
think one thing we noticed tonight is that we did have a little bit of heightened security, so it's something we need to take and keep in mind. I would hope that I'm hoping this person that did this to Councilor Gibson gets brought to swift justice to the full extent of the law, and it deters people from wanting to do this in the future, because this is unacceptable. This isn't a society we live in. This isn't the Wild West. You don't just get to go shoot up a house because you didn't like what they did. There's ways to do things, and that's not an acceptable one.
Brian, when I posted a story about social media profiles, there are a lot of people saying that this is fake, that Ron Gibson may have, did this himself to get sympathy for the whole data center thing. I know it's ridiculous, but I still got to get your reaction on all that.
That's, to me, a very disturbing thing to even think about. He has his young son that was asleep in the house at the time. To think that even anyone would fathom that he would be able to do that is a terrible thing to say. I don't understand where people come from with that, but, I'm sure the law will show us, our IMPD officers and detectives will do all they can to bring this person to justice.
Are you guys as councilors taking additional security, just being more self-aware of the situations that you're in, and because you just never know?
It's one thing that I think, every councilor should be more aware now. I consider myself someone that's typically pretty alert of my surroundings, so I'll definitely continue to be that way, and I hope that my fellow councilors, if they're not already that way, will start being that way.
Do you feel I was just going to ask, do you feel like we're entering kind of an era where people are, I know this question was kind of addressed a little bit earlier, but people are taking their political thoughts, feelings, aggravation out on politicians at every level? We saw with redistricting at the state level for the past year, but now here as well. Do you feel like this is just kind of the reality, the unfortunate and scary reality that is public service now?
I think a lot of it is fueled by the rhetoric they're hearing every day. They're glorifying some of these people on news outlets that are repeating this person's name that have done these terrible things, and you don't hear much about the person themselves. We know, things have happened to the president of the United States, and we know less about that than we do, a lot of things going on right now. And I think that this discourse that we're having is a civil unrest, but it doesn't call for violence. There's much better ways to handle our disagreements than to reach for a gun or to start a fight that no one wins. Where at the end of the day, someone's going to get in trouble, someone's going to get seriously hurt, if not killed, and we have to do better as a community and as a society to know that this isn't the way to go about things.
Does it feel like the data center discussion puts too much pressure on individual councilors to support or not support these projects since, the MDC isn't elected and, they're making those decisions, and if it doesn't come to the council or if you all choose to support it, that's just putting it on one person. Is that something that you think about if a data center were to come to your district?
I look at what's the best for the district. I try to hear what people are saying around the area. And that gets tough with this data center conversation because you all too often get people that aren't from the area reaching out saying they oppose the data center. But I want to know what the people around the area think. And also, I ask that, if you are in support, write a letter to the MDC, write a letter to myself, to the entire council body, so that we know there are people out there that are in support, which I have a feeling that Councilor Gibson probably got a lot of letters of support as well as opposition. So you have to balance those two things and see what's best, and does it work for that area, and is it a good use of that land? And that's the mindset we should continue going into these decisions with. Is it going to better the community, or is it going to be a hindrance? And are we listening to this narrative that is sometimes false, or are we actually basing our opinions in fact? And I think those facts should really outweigh these opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.